North Korea releases American prisoners, a tragic shooting in Western Australia, and we walk through the 2018 budget. It's the 12th of May 2018, and this is what's going on. North Korea has released 3 American prisoners in an apparent goodwill gesture. US President Donald Trump has greeted a military plane carrying 3 Americans released from North Korea. These men arrived in the US at the Joint Base Andrews in Maryland. The 3 men received a hero's welcoming featuring Trump, Vice President Pence, and the First Lady. The men were released to Pompeo during his visit to Pyongyang. The touchdown was an accumulation of a whirlwind of 20 hours since the 3 men were freed, and a dramatic diplomatic moment for the White House, which the officials have described as a positive gesture of goodwill from Kim Jong-un's regime ahead of his planned summit with Trump. Trump also suggested that Pompeo and Kim had agreed to a date and a location for their first summit, which is a meeting in between the American president and the North Korean leader. The longest held prisoner was Kim Dong-chol, a 64-year-old who once lived in Fairfax, Virginia, and was arrested in October 2015. He was sentenced in April 2016 to 10 years in prison on charges of espionage and subversion. Then a year ago, 2 men associated with Pyongyang's University of Science and Technology, which is a private institution run by Korean American Christians, they were detained. The 3 detainees had all been treated as prisoners of war and have not been seen since June, when the State Department officials were allowed to briefly have a visit with them. South Korea's presidential Blue House welcomed the release for both men and their families, and it's just a good sign of North Korea's sincerity. The decision made by North Korea will be a positive factor for the success of North Korean United States Summit, stated by a Blue House spokesman. There's also considerable significance in the fact that all 3 American detainees are of Korean origin. Pompeo and Kim Jong-chol met behind closed doors at the Koryo Hotel for about an hour on Wednesday morning. Kim Jong-chol was in a good mood, telling Pompeo and the dozen or so staffers travelling with him that's a good time to be in Pyongyang because it was springtime and there was a good atmosphere that's been established between the North and South. This echoed remarks that both Korean leaders have been making about the new spring arriving in the peninsula. The delegation's arrival in Pyongyang was part of a sudden flurry of diplomacy in North Asia related to the efforts to engage North Korea. For example, in Tokyo on Wednesday, leaders from China, Japan, and South Korea met and stressed their resolve to use talks to convince North Korea to give up its nuclear weapons programs. So let's have a look at the 3 released Americans. The first one is Kim Dong-chol. Kim is a South Korean-born US citizen and is the longest-serving detainee amongst the 3 of them. We then have Tony Kim. Tony Kim, who also goes by the Korean name of Kim Sang-dak, was detained on April 22, 2017 at the Pyongyang airport for committing criminal acts of hostility to overturn. North Korea, according to the North Korean Central News Agency, didn't say what specific criminal acts Kim was alleged to have committed. Kim Hang-song. Kim worked in an agricultural development at an experimental farm run by the Pyongyang University of Science and Technology. He was detained on May 6, 2017 for engaging in unspecific hostile acts against North Korea. Now, on a more positive note coming out of the area, I'm sure there will be more. It seems every nation of the peninsula is being very optimistic and about the recent and future issues. So it's good stuff. Okay, now we go to the tragic news coming out of Western Australia. The bodies of 4 children and 3 adults have been found at a Western Australian property of what police have described as a horrific tragedy. It's quite sad. Detectives of the Major Crime Squad are at a rural property in Osmington, 20 kilometres northeast of the Margaret River, after 7 people were found dead and 2 firearms were located. In a press conference this afternoon, Western Australia Police Commissioner Chris Dawson said police were called to the property at 5:15 a.m. to find the 7 bodies. Mr. Dawson described the discovery as devastating. 2 adults were found outside the house, and the other 5 victims, including 4 kids, were found inside. Police also found 2 firearms at the scene. The deaths are being investigated as a murder-suicide, as Mr. Dawson told reporters in Perth that he was unable to confirm this, but said some of the bodies have had gunshot wounds. The Premier of Western Australia, Mark McGowan, has tweeted about the incident, saying the events were tragic and shocking. Neighbour Richard Dosser told the ABC he had spoken to someone who lived at the house who worked as a farm maintenance worker, and he was talking to him on the phone last night. He was going to ask him to come over, he said, but the bloke seemed very, very vague about it. Oswington was mostly rural. It mostly is rural, made up of vineyards and farmland properties. The police commissioner said homicide detectives were helping local police with investigations, supported by a specialist unit and the chaplain. This devastating tragedy will no doubt have a lasting impact on the families concerned, the whole community, and in particular the local communities in the southwest, stated by Mr. Dawson. Mr. Dawson also said it was not appropriate to speculate on any further details, but assured the community that there was no wider public safety issues. As they stated before, it's a murder-suicide, it's a domestic family tragedy. That's what I believe that all this is. The Commissioner said that the incident had taken its toll on the first respondents. This is a horrific tragedy for any person involved, and clearly officers and the other first responders attending these sort of scenes, they'll find it tragic. They'll get on with the job. Regrettably, these tragedies do take their toll on everyone. The Commissioner confirmed that the person who made the call in the connection to the property, but would not name the nature of his link. He was also unable to confirm the ages of the children, as the police were still notifying the family members. Tragic day in Western Australia. Our thoughts and condolences go for anyone involved with the families, or even the community involved. Alright guys, the budget 2018. Here we go. The winners are low to mid income, craft beer drinkers, drivers, small business, and the elderly. The losers involved in this are smokers, welfare recipients, large tech companies, foreign companies, and banks. So let's start off with the taxpayers. More than 10 million Aussie workers on low to middle incomes will get a tax break of up to $530 a year, or about $10 a week from next year. That's about 4.4 million workers earning in between $48,000 and $90,000, who are the biggest winners, which will receive the full $530. It's part of a new tax offset announced in the budget that will be paid in addition to the low income tax offset. Individuals will receive a payment as a lump sum after they lodge their tax return next year. So you won't see it weekly, you'll see it in your tax return. The government will also lift the tax bracket from $87,000 to $90,000 from July 1st, 2018, and then from $120,000 then to $120,000 in July 1st, 2022, preventing hundreds of thousands from paying more tax. The 90% bracket will also be lifted from $37,000 to $41,000 that year. Superannuation account exit fees will be banned, preventing Aussies getting hit with a charge when they change funds. The ATO will also directly be proactive to find lost super. Taxpayers have also escaped the Medicare levy hike, which would have cost the average family about $600 per year. The government will keep the Medicare levy at 2% instead of increasing it to 2.5% as previously planned. The hike announced in last year's budget to fully fund the NDIS, they're going to do it through general revenue now, instead of they're going to take money away from people. The government has committed a $24.5 billion funding injection to road and projects across Australia. Small business. The instant assets write-off for small business for purchases under $20,000 will be extended. The elderly, retirees wanting to boost their incomes will be able to earn $300 a fortnight, or that's up $50 from what it was, without affecting their pensions. Older Australians, $1.6 billion over the next 4 years to increase the number of home care places by 14,000. To support older Australians who want to stay at home rather than going into aged care. So middle to low income earners. So from July 1st, 2018, the top threshold for the 37% tax bracket will increase to $90,000. In the 2020s, the tax income threshold will further be raised to combat bracket creep for middle to high income earners. What have we got here for infrastructure? We have 3.5 billion on roads, including 1.5 billion for Northern Australia, 400 million for Tasmania, 100 million for New South Wales and ACT, and 1.5 billion for the future national priorities. In addition, 1 billion for urban congestion fund. That's just pinch points and traffic flows. Patients. Extra 1.4 billion over 5 years for new pharmaceutical benefit schemes, listing including medicines that treat spinal, breast cancer, myeloma, sclerosis, and HIV medications. Indigenous Australians will receive 550 million over 5 years to address remote housing needs in Northern Territory. Great Barrier Reef will receive 536 million over 5 years to crack down on coral-eating starfish and improve water quality. Craft beer drinkers. Craft beer is likely to get cheaper from the government planning to axe a bizarre beer tax. Currently, brewers that use small kegs, which is frequently craft brewers because they don't do it on a large scale, are taxed higher rates than big breweries. The government has committed $85 million over 3 years to extend the lower tax rate and keep kegs as small as 8 litres. We're gonna have our own NASA. The government is investing $26 million to establish Australia's very own space agency. An extra $15 million over 3 years from 2019 will also help us partner up with international agencies and programs. Keeping the boats stocked, Operation Sovereign Borders will receive an extra $62.2 million over 2 years, with money going to towards continued maritime security activities, international action to tackle people smuggling, and support offshore detention and resettlement arrangements. The government will also provide $35.7 million over 4 years for a science program to look into climate and ecosystems in the Antarctic. We also have the government's pledged $19.2 million over 4 years to open new consulates in India. It will spurge $6 million over the next 4 years to expand engagement in the emerging Indo-Pacific leaders. We're going to put an extra $4 million has been promised for Football Federation Australia for the bid for the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup. There's also $10.1 million to be spent on protecting the integrity of Australian sport, including anti-doping measures and building a more active Australia. Sydney Harbour is going to get a little bit more crowded as well. They want to put $300,000 in investment in cruise ship berthing sites. In migrants, they'll be getting a helping hand for $5 million for community organisations that help migrants integrate into Australian life. Grants will support practical neighbourhood activities that foster Australian film industry. The government will spend $140 million over 4 years to attract international investment and support local jobs in the film industry through location incentive programs. This funding will complement an existing location offset and is designed to attract big budget movies to come and record here, like Thor was filmed in Queensland, and so on and so on. There's a commitment to the MH17. The government will provide $50.3 million over 4 years to support Dutch prosecution to find who was responsible for the downing of Malaysian Airlines flight MH17 in Ukraine in 2014. The funding will meet Australia's share for the prosecution costs and help family members and victims participate in court proceedings. Organ donation. We'll be able to encourage to sign up for the Australian Organ Donor Register by a range of partner organisations who will receive $400,000 of awareness-raising campaigns that help Australians receive life-saving organ transplants. National apology for child victims. The government will provide $1.6 million over 2 years to develop and deliver a national apology to the victims of institutional child sex abuse, while $6.3 million has been promised for a task force to respond to the recommendations of the Royal Commission into institutions responsible for child sex abuse. More CCTV, more lights, more bollards. An extra $30 million in confiscated money from criminals under the Proceeds of Crime Act will go towards extending Safe Communities Fund, which provides great funding for local community and organisations for crime prevention initiatives, including closed-circuit television, CCTV, lights and bollards. Now, losers, super funds. From July 1st, 2019, ban on exit fees on all super accounts and a 3% annual cap on passive fees for super accounts. Life insurers. From July 1st, 2019, insurance linked with superannuation will move from an opt-out model to an opt-in model for members and balances less than $6,000. Members under the age of 25 and members who have not received contribution in the past 13 months. New migrants will have to wait 4 years instead of 3 years before they can access certain welfare benefits. It's estimated new migrants will miss out more than $200 million worth of welfare benefits for the first 5 years as a result of this measure. They've got to wait another year before they can get Social Security or health benefits and stuff like that. Tax dodgers, a new $10,000 limit for cash payments and goods and services. Also, the government aims to raise $3 billion over the next 4 years by funding a new mobile strike team, increasing audit presence and crack down on tax avoidance by money laundering. The government also aims to raise $1.9 billion by better combating the black economy. It will also crack down on illegitimate use of research and development, tax incentives, R&D, raising $2.4 billion over the next 4 years. Renewable energy is also a loser. Emissions reduction target will remain at 26 to 28%, not 45%, which is demanded by Labor. The current subsidy scheme for renewable energy would phase out by 2020. The Greens are going to love that. Smokers will have to pay more for tobacco. They're also looking at trying to crack down on illicit tobacco smuggling to raise $3.6 billion over the next 4 years. Tax on smokers is a big funder for this budget. $3.6 billion for illegal tobacco. Wow, that's massive. Big pharmacy. The government will encourage the use of generic and biosimilar medicines to raise $336 million over 5 years from 2017. The chemical attributes were just a cheaper price. Selling fraudsters, the government will save nearly $300 million by 2019-2020 by amping up its Centrelink fraud detection and debt recovery activities. They're also going to hit online booking sites such as What-If, Expedia, Booking.com, as they have offshore sellers of hotel accommodations in Australia, where they have to pay a GST to hotel accommodation sales made from July 1st, 2019, the estimated raise of $15 million over the next 4 years. So a response from the Black Economy Task Force, they're going to be banning cash, or not banning cash, no transactions over $10,000, and denying a tax deduction for wages. Employers does not withhold paid G income tax. So if you use more than $10,000 cash, you won't be able to do it for a business transaction. Everything's going to have to be digital. Okay, the ABC's had a bit of a trimming. The national broadcaster is being slugged with funding cut of $83.7 million over 3 years. The government is achieving the savings intended to ensure that the ABC continues to find back office efficiencies by freezing its funds at 2018 levels. This will save taxpayers $3.16 billion over the next 4 years. Now, I was talking before about the mobile strike teams on the crackdown on tax evasion. The Australian Tax Office will roll out these mobile strike teams with more auditors and a community hotline to target Australians who are hiding transactions and avoiding tax. The cash crackdown is expected to bring another additional $3 billion in 4 years. Slavery crackdown. An anti-slavery unit will be set up at a cost of $3.6 million to prevent modern slavery from occurring in the supply chains and operations of businesses operating in Australia. Also, too, if you want a drone, you're going to have to be careful. Drone enthusiasts might have to obey stricter rules when they take to the skies in the coming years. The government will spend $2.9 million to the support of the Civil Aviation Safety Authority to manage safety and compliance with drones. Alright, let's do the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good for this? Helping the working class, helping the elderly, and helping small business. The bad. I didn't see anything in this budget for the people below the tax-free threshold. Though they're not paying tax, I still believe that they need some incentives to try and help through the workplace, even though they may be casual and doing stuff like that. I think they need to throw something more in there for them as well to try and help them out. Also, too, they didn't talk about the rich. I mean, copious rich. They sort of focused on the low to middle income, but I don't like the idea that nothing was said or that there's a silent feature in this budget. The ugly is the tax brackets. They want to change them. It's a huge issue for them to try and get this through Parliament, and I hope Labor contests this. That the first stage is all good. The second stage, they're going to be changing the tax bracket from 37,000. and it's going to go all the way, not to 90,000, but it's going to go up to 200,000. So you could be making $37,000, and the bloke next door could be making $199,999, and you pay the same amount of tax. So in my opinion, overall, it's solid. It's good for a surplus. Something to worry about is the lack of talking about the high income, and also the corporate taxes. They didn't touch on that at all. This is a budget which is pre-election. It's built for a pre-election. Alright guys, that's it for the weekly review. We covered North Korea, we covered the tragic shooting in Western Australia, and we went for a little walk through the Australian budget of 2018. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you want more videos like this, please subscribe or check out the channel, and enjoy your day.